Most living rooms have one wall that remains empty. You've placed the furniture, you've rolled out the rug, and yet the space feels unresolved. That blank space is the highest visibility surface in your house. Trying to fill it without a plan usually results in an expensive mistake. The common error is the screen test, buying a piece of art based solely on how it looks on a monitor. A cohesive space requires spatial mathematics. The aesthetic of the art is secondary to how it fits the dimensions of the wall. This quadrant chart maps spatial fit against aesthetic appeal. The danger zone in the top left shows what happens when you prioritize a beautiful piece that physically clashes with your room's proportions. Prioritizing raw affection for an isolated canvas over the mathematical layout of your walls creates a disjointed, unfinished space. Sunlight hitting a room reveals the structural lines of the furniture. Every piece of art you add will either reinforce these lines or disrupt them. Achieving a cohesive room requires the discipline to ignore personal favorites if they violate these structural proportions. Objective dimensional formulas replace the anxiety of subjective guessing. Correctly sized canvases function as geometric anchors, manipulating the perceived height and volume of the space. We can break this down into the exact proportional formulas required for the primary zones in your layout. Accepting strict structural constraints protects you from the visual friction of a sizing mistake. The main sofa acts as the primary anchor point in most living room layouts. To anchor this zone, the width of the canvas must span 60 to 75%, roughly 2/3, of the sofa below it. Executing this specific ratio causes the eye to read the sofa and the art together as a single architectural unit. This formula is mandatory. You must set aside pieces you love if their physical dimensions fall outside this 2/3 measurement. The secondary anchor is the fireplace mantel. For this zone, the canvas width must be exactly equal to or slightly narrower than the mantelpiece. This rule often requires precise measuring and custom sizing, which limits your off-the-shelf purchasing options. Adhering to these precise ratios prevent massive furniture pieces from feeling top-heavy, solving the core dilemma of a disjointed room. On massive, uninterrupted living room walls, standard dimensional formulas are often entirely impossible to meet with a single piece. Managing these large spatial voids requires a focus on visual weight. A gallery wall system uses 3 to 5 varying canvas sizes to properly distribute that weight across the wall. As this matrix shows, a gallery system requires more planning effort but carries a much lower financial risk than a single, massive statement piece. Breaking a large void into a mathematically spaced system maintains proportional scale while lowering the cost of failure. After locking in the dimensions, we shift to the room's color palette. The one accent rule requires you to extract only a single minor color from the room to feature in the artwork. This graphic illustrates the connection. Matching the canvas to the entire room creates a contrived environment. You only need one point of visual contact. Framing is your primary tool for mitigating stylistic risk over time. Defaulting strictly to black frame canvases ensures compatibility across shifting wall colors and evolving furniture styles. Universal black frames do surrender the specific warmth of natural wood, but they ultimately provide a much better long-term safety net. Using disciplined color extraction and universal framing ensures the canvas supports the room's established foundation. Final strategy depends on your specific budget and constraints. For the design novice, the primary concern is risk aversion. Strictly executing the 2/3 scale rule and defaulting to black frames guarantees a functional baseline. The aesthetic optimizer already has a functional baseline and seeks to manipulate the room's ambient energy. Identifying your risk profile cures purchasing paralysis by narrowing your options to what mathematically works. Aesthetic optimizers use canvas subject matter to dictate the psychological mood of the space. Abstract pieces inject energy into static rooms, while botanical or landscape pieces enforce architectural calm. This scorecard displays the 4-point checklist. A finished living room requires treating art as a structural component. Every purchase must pass these 4 inputs: proportion, mood, accent color, and frame. Consult the curated examples linked directly below to find canvases that already conform to these exact spatial mathematics.